can you tell me a little bit about how you were involved in the creative arts in Teesside?
Yeah, so I'm a writer. I've written a couple of books, and it was all very unexpected, really. Wasn't a plan to do that. And more recently, there seems to have been a few different things I've come across online that's very much around creativity in Teesside, and so that's helping me to connect with other opportunities and forums, really.
So have you always been involved with the arts from a young age, or is that something more recent?
No, not at all. I never considered myself to be creative at all. I was, I did well at creative writing at school, but it was never something I did other than at school, because, it was one of the things that you did. And it was just, 5 years ago now, I started writing. I was going through some particular challenges in my life, and I just felt a compulsion to write about it, and I don't know where it came from, or and even then I wouldn't say I considered myself creative, because I was just kind of telling a story of things that have happened. But then the more I wrote, I started writing poetry. It makes it sound like a conscious choice, but again, it just kind of came out that way, really. So yeah, it's all pretty recent for me.
Brilliant. So are you involved in any writers groups, or have you performed locally?
I've, through my publisher, Sixth Element, I've attended a few of their writing groups, but to be honest, I've not. Well, this year I was wanting to, because I published a poetry book at the end of last year, and I'd wanted to. My plan was to go along to open mic nights, to read some poems and promote it that way. But obviously, everything closing down put a stop to that. But no. So in the main, it's been a solo pursuit, really, in terms of the writing of it, and then obviously you put it out into the world and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I think poetry's suffered a lot through lockdown. I think other performance come across, like theatre is kind of great to do online, because everyone's worked out they can cheat and actually have the words on the screen in front of them, and nobody knows. So that's almost been quite good fun. But yeah, poetry is a bit more tricky, I think, to perform virtually.
But it's weird, and this was one of the things that I was looking forward to, really, because I've always, but in the last 5 years I've written, but haven't performed, and I wouldn't consider myself a performer. But I don't know, I don't put limits on myself, I guess, and one of the things that discovering a creative outlet has done for me is it does open you up to new opportunities and experiences, and thinking, all right, well, I'll give that a go, because you want what you've written to reach people. And so I wouldn't say perform, but through social media, I've read out a number of my poems, and so yeah, it feels like the next logical step, really, to do that live.
Yeah, it's an interesting journey. I remember first time I performed poetry was it was at the Dickens. It was at Electric Kool-Aid Cabaret. It was I was taking the BA at the time, and it was the MA students' end of year performance, and I had just the right amount to drink. Put myself up for the open mic at the end of it, and it went down really, really well. I was really, really shaking, and it took.
Yeah.
I guess I was doing open mics for perhaps another year after that, before I started actually getting poetry slots.
Right, okay.
And I still shake when I go up there, to begin with.
Yeah.
work that's really important to me. But I do have my own club, and I find it much easier to perform there because obviously.
Oh well, really?
Yeah, I mean, you're more than welcome to. Obviously, online. It's online at the moment, but you're more.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Come and have a little slot. It's a club called the Red Room. We started in February before this, like last February. We were running at the Go Between in Stockton.
Oh well.
I think we did about 7 months, and then we had sadly they closed down and had a loss in the family, and then we relaunched this year with a night at base camp, and we had gigs lined up at Disgraceland.
Oh yeah.
At the studio in Hartlepool. We'd become like a pop-up venue that would perform all
Oh, brilliant.
But yeah, I had every date, every month in the diary up until November. But of course, we only did February, and then it was lockdown.
Yeah.
So
that sounds fantastic. I mean, because what that is, like I say, it's one of the things I want to do, but it's the community aspect of it as well, and being around. It's like any, you discover something, and then it's like wanting to be around other people that get it, and that you can learn from and share experiences with. And so yeah, I'd love something like that.
Brilliant. And also I'm talking to a few people about ideas for a writers group down at the Auxiliary.
Fantastic.
Because it's big enough to social distance. It would be, I think each month we'd have somebody that's got some kind of specialist knowledge in writing. Talking to Steve Spithray about doing something about writing for articles for magazines, and in about screenwriting. So it kind of like have a kind of expert each month. But
yeah.
That whole thing of getting together, that community aspect of it, mingling seats.
Yeah.
Collaborate with. And because the Aux is, have you been there, the Auxiliary?
No, I haven't, no.
But it's 11,000 square feet, so plenty of room to do that while socially distancing.
Yeah. Whereabouts is that?
So it's on Station Street, very near where the Bongo was, or is.
Oh, right, okay.
Just behind the train station, basically.
Oh, right, okay.
It's an art gallery and studio space. We have various different. I've got a studio down there, and Bordello Theatre have.
Oh, fantastic.
Liz Collier, an artist. So it's just a fantastic, really incredible building.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm hoping that we can kick off with that in the next few weeks.
Oh, brilliant! That sounds great. That. I
will let you know, but I've kind of commandeered your interview by getting carried away.
Oh, you're all right. No, it's interesting.
Do you have any major influences or inspirations in your poetry, or is it just seemed to come completely from you?
Yeah. It's interesting, like thinking of the questions beforehand, and because I wouldn't say I've had any direct influences or people that have inspired me directly, as in, I'm going to take this from them or whatever. But I've always been, an avid reader my whole life. And so I also, when I started writing, it just came out of me. And I guess so much of it must have been having read so much over the years. And two authors stand out for me that I just love their work, and Salman Rushdie and Louis de Bernier, and it's just something about the way they write, it just so alive, and for me it's stirring some emotion. I like, that's what I like to try and do. And I've always been a big fan of music as well. And I'm inspired by, I've got a album sleeve tattooed on my arm, and a lyric from them, a band called Bright Eyes, and their main songwriter, Conor Oberst. And just the way he can capture really kind of powerful or even mundane emotions and feelings with a particular turn of phrase and lyric, it's just brilliant. And so I suppose, without directly thinking of it, and certainly won't put myself anywhere near that, but it's wanting to stir that kind of emotion in somebody, and resonating with somebody in the way that people that I've read and listened to have resonated with me.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with Louis de Bernier and Salman Rushdie. Controversially, my favourite Salman Rushdie book is Grimace, which I know has a really mixed reception, but it had a huge impact on my thinking. Understanding of the universe when I read it. It was one of those books that made my head get a little bit, a little bit woo-woo.
Well, the first of his I read was Midnight's Children. I remember about the first 50 pages. I just couldn't get it at all. It just seemed to have no structure, and then just clicked after about 50 pages. I just thought, I love this. and I went on to read as many of his books as I could. He's just, once you, I guess, tune in to how he writes, it's just incredible.
Absolutely. I think with a lot of my favourite books, it's been through that process of just letting myself off the hook of trying to understand it. Just going with it and where it leads. And I think I've learned most from that kind of books than anything too straightforward. So I mean, you talked about you went through something in your life and you started writing. So quite interested to have just a bit of perspective on the value you think, or the importance of art beyond the idea of performing to one another, and like what do you think it can give you as a human being, other than having a created piece of art at the end of it?
Well, for me, this is a really kind of powerful question for me, because I'd never done anything like it before, and I felt compelled to write. And it's a strange way of putting it, but I can only describe it that way. I'd love that, because I read so much. I'd always thought, I'd love to write a book, but it was never anything I thought I'd do, never anything I'd set out to do. I'd never sat down to write something or type something. But once I started writing, it was a catharsis for me. It helped me deal with things. I mean, I was going through a divorce, but also I had struggles with my mental health, and so it brings a lot. I was going through a lot, I guess, in terms of who am I and where am I going, and why did this happen, and writing helped me to, it helped me to articulate it, but more than that, because it just came out, things that I wouldn't have necessarily known otherwise, and it helped me to make connections between things and create a story or a narrative around events in my life that help things make sense, particularly for the mental health side of things. It just brought a perspective. Things that might swim in my head suddenly took on a different form when they were written, and it was objective, and could see it with a bit of distance. And so it was, and then with the poetry side of things. So the initial book, and it's like a memoir really. It started as a blog, but it was like really exploring things. Whereas with poetry, it was more like you capturing a sense and a feeling in as few words as possible. Like just finding the right words, the rhythm of the words, and so that's the thing I enjoy writing the most, because it's like it's that whole the whole challenge of finding the right words to say and capture something, and I just love that feeling. And so it gave a lot to me personally through that. But then when you put it out into the world and others get something from it and connect with it, and particularly, like I said, emotionally, where someone will say, what you wrote, that's me, that's it, but I've never been able to describe it to someone, and that means a lot to me, that I've been able to have that effect on people. But also it helps you to create connections with people, whether it be just in one message, or whether you go on to share interests, whether you become friends, whatever it might be. And this is where I'd like to be part of a wider community around this, because it just adds so much, and I think it reveals things about you, but also about, it captures the essence of what it is to be human and to go through these experiences that we all go through in some shape or form, but to capture it in a way that's alive and unique, whether it be through a painting or a piece of writing or poetry or music, whatever it might be. It just gives it the power. And I love it. I read somewhere it says that what other people think of it isn't your business. Your business, you create something, and and there's a whole thing about that, whether you do it or whether it comes through you or whatever. But then once it's out in the world, it's not your business. Your job's done. It then belongs to everybody else and how they relate to it through the lens of their own experience. And again, to be a part of that cog from wherever it comes from to wherever it ends up, I just think it's it's very special, really. You just can't you can't exactly explain it. Just it makes you feel part of something bigger, and and that gives you a feeling that nothing else has given me that kind of feeling before.
Well, thanks for that. That was absolutely brilliant. I'm really glad I asked you that.
Oh, thank you.
Terrific. I think we've covered all the questions.
Brilliant.
That's great. And so thanks for talking to me. And
you're welcome.
I'll talk to you about the Red Room and about the writers group.
Fantastic. That would be great.
All right.
Thank you very much. Nice
See you
to see
soon.
you. Cheers. Bye bye.